Yo, I'm back with another bomb-ass vid teaching you how to make the fake anime. I know I said in the last video that I make the concept and character design one next, but there were plenty of people who wanted this one now, so I figured I'd just make this video first. So this video is about compositing. Compositing is when you take all the elements that you need in your shot and put them together. So first, here are the basic steps for how I do it when it comes to animation. Since I like to animate in Photoshop, I just have regular image files for all of the frames of my animation. Sometimes I like to have them as layers in a PSD and import them so that they're easy to manage as one file. But sometimes I save them as an image sequence instead. Depends on how long the clip is and how many layers I'm using. Make a new composition. 1920 by 1080 and 24 frames per second is what you're going to want to set it to. Then you get your image files. I like to draw my images in a larger size than the final composition is going to be, usually 2880 by 1620. That means I have more freedom to move things around in the compositing stage. Drag them all into your composition and start timing them out. If you're doing it anime style, you're going to want to time your drawings out in a mix of 2 and 3 frames at a time. Very rarely does anime use a new drawing on every frame. Broadcast anime basically never does it. And it saves you time while making it look more authentic to real anime. Using a 3 in a sequence of 2s is a good way to make something ease in or out a little bit, like this. Then just plop in your background, maybe blur it if it's appropriate, like if it's a close-up or something where a short depth of field looks good. Then, if you want to, you can pre-compose your character animation layers. I usually do one pre-comp per character and then drop a curves adjustment on it and mess around with it until the characters match the setting a bit better. And that's the basics. But the parts that come after that are what make it look more like an actual anime. Really, the most important thing with compositing to match a style or era is to get good at observation. I didn't find any guides or use a filter or anything to make the modern style or the retro 80s style. I just looked at a lot of screenshots and figured out myself. For the modern style, there's a few key things that you see in almost every anime. Like if you look at this picture, you can see that the light parts kind of bleed out into the dark parts in the lines a little bit. This is diffusion, is what they call it. And another thing is using large, very subtle light or dark areas that are very soft on low opacities. Never keep things too flat, unless you're specifically going for a style that does that, like Shaft. Another thing, which I guess isn't really part of the compositing, is the way the lines look. Anime lines are usually pencil on paper, which is scanned in and converted to pure black and white, and then smoothed again during compositing. This is one thing that I feel like we never really matched that well with Senpai Club since it's all digital. Anyway, even though the lines are thin, they have to have taper and subtle weight to them. Draw your lines using a brush tool with pressure sensitivity on, never a pen tool or line tool, like anchor and circle, whatever, You gotta make it look natural. So for the soft lighting that I talked about, I like to use adjustment layers with masks. Make an adjustment layer, mask it to the area you want with a very high feather, and then drop a curves adjustment onto it and do whatever little change you need. Sometimes I'll use a solid for this instead if I need a specific color. A quick trick to add some color variance into your shot might be to add a very subtle vignette, maybe with a different blending mode like overlay. Don't use the standard blending mode, because if you just have a black vignette, it's gonna just make your colors kinda look bad and grayish. Don't do that. Use a different blending mode, but don't overuse it, because vignettes kinda look tacky if you have them too much. For the diffusion, the technique I use is kinda workaroundy, but it works well. I just select my entire composition and then make a pre-comp out of it. And then I duplicate that pre-comp and I drop a fast blur onto it and then set the blending mode to lighten. Then I just drop the opacity to something like 30 and adjust the blur until I get the result that I want. And then you see it looks like anime. Then just render that with your favorite settings and you have your shot done. Just do that 70 more times and you have a 5-minute episode. Fantastic. And that's that vid. Now you know how to composite the good anime. The next one is gonna be on animation, I think. Anime style animation. Amazing. See ya.